Stick together, team. Falling behind. Heavy ammo on the way. Heavy ammo available. Heavy ammo inbound. Heavy ammo available. You're in the lead. 5 minutes remaining. Lost the lead. Gained the lead. Heavy ammo on the way. More efforts like that, and we might just win this.